Marketing is one of those things that I think most authors would say is a bane of their existence, but it's something that more and more we have to do. I started writing in 2005. My first book released in 2007. So I'm very fortunate. I don't have a shelf of books sitting at home that I wrote that haven't been published. So that's good and bad because all of my books that I've written have been published. But at the same time, I started writing in the mid 2000s where a lot of the work falls on the writer. I love writing with publishers because I love that collaborative process. I love knowing there's someone who's going to help me come up with the cover and believes in my book and is going to help with the editing and going to do some of the marketing. But a lot of it does fall on authors, and it's daunting. There's never enough time in the day, regardless of if you're writing full-time or you're like me where you have a full-time job and a very active family. And so really, I think one of the keys is you have to find what you enjoy and focus on that, because otherwise it's overwhelming. Even when you find the part you like, it is overwhelming. And the challenge with marketing is you really can't measure success. Publicity is just that. If you've ever done any type of marketing and publicity in real life, you know you just really can't draw a one-to-one connection. And so that makes it hard if you're trying to go, I pull this lever and that equals this many sales. You just can't do that. And then in a social media world where they're constantly changing the algorithm, you get one thing dialed in and then they change it. It's infuriating and frustrating. So the best thing a writer can do is focus on their newsletter, because that is the one thing that you control. So one of the things that I have done over the last couple of years is really focus on the writing, because that's the only thing that I can do. For the podcast, I have a virtual assistant who I pay to actually produce the podcast. I have a virtual assistant who the last 6 months has been helping with the marketing on social media. I have a bookkeeper that I pay to do the books. All of that I can do, but I'm the only one who can write the words. And so I've had to kind of let go, because I'm a conservative girl from the Midwest who's like, I can do it all, but I only have so much time. And so I still pop on, and you will see, I'll pop on to Instagram and I'm doing reels and things like that because that's kind of fun. But now I don't have to focus on every day, am I popping onto these different sites? Because Jamie Wright is creating content and she and I are talking once a month to set up the schedules, but I'm paying her to create the calendars and to come up with the actual content, and then I pop on a couple times a week to do the comments and things like that. But then I'm doing the newsletter content, and I'm thinking about kind of the bigger systemic things and the bigger, as I get Writes Back. Like I just got an award-winning book, The Writes Back to Shadowed by Grace. And so I'm then thinking, how does that fit in with the bigger scheme of my books and the contracts that I have? And when's the right time to re-release that? Because I'm the one who controls my brand, and I'm the one who controls my books. And so that, by hiring Jamie and Kristen and my bookkeeper, that allows me to pull back up and think about the bigger brand and the bigger overarching, what's the trajectory of my books and how do they all fit together. And so that's where I can add the most value. And so I could geek out on telling you how the book that's coming out in September connects to Shadowed by Grace and connects to the series that releases, and all of these ways the books web together that my readers are going to like geek out on, especially those who read Shadowed by Grace are going to be like, oh my gosh, this connects to that and then connects to this. And those kind of Easter eggs make readers so excited. But at the same time, people who pick up the September book are going to be like, oh, this is so cool. And then they'll come back to Shadowed by Grace because they all web together. And so that's where, as the writer, if I'm thinking strategically, that's actually marketing. And we lose sight of that. And so if we as the writer are focused on those kinds of connections, that actually adds greater value than sometimes this graphic on Facebook or that graphic over here. And I think sometimes we get so lost in the minutia, we forget about that larger web.